Lois asked inquisitively, what is that? The fairy butterfly, Finn, feeling frightened, nestled into Lois's body and tremulously replied, I think there's more than one, sir. Before them now stood an entire army with red eyes slowly advancing towards them. Khan, the young lad, puzzled, are these guys really human? Kaney retorted, how ignorant can you be? Humans don't have red eyes. Meanwhile, Lois was staring intently at a white-haired figure leading the army with an axe in hand. Perplexed, Lois asked, wait, so what is that? An army of winter. Before this comic book series began, the heroic King Valencia had saved everyone from a world crisis. Even after his passing, it was said that he continued to diligently work. Is this where they say the heroic king appeared? Lois remarked. The icy tomb of the great heroic king. Lois mused, so the tomb of this heroic king is this far from home, how coincidental. But wait, if this is the tomb of that heroic king, does it mean that the items from the comic are also here? Suddenly, the fairy butterfly, Finn, exclaimed and pointed ahead, Sir Lois, they seem to be advancing aggressively. Then, the whole army began to charge fiercely, prompting Lois to shout, Khan, Kaney, let's handle them. As soon as he finished speaking, the two mischievous kids grabbed their swords and rushed forward with gleeful faces, as if playing. Then, Khan leaped into the air, stamping his foot, okay, let's fight. He swung his sword with lightning emanating all around him. The winter warrior raised his axe to block, but couldn't withstand Khan's strength. The axe shattered. And Khan's sword slashed straight down from head to toe. Instantly, a white light radiated from the figure, spreading in all 8 directions and then bursting, scattering snow everywhere. Watching this, Kaney remarked somewhat reluctantly, oh, I wanted to go first. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind, raising an axe to strike. Immediately, Kaney unleashed her deadly skill, the 9 swords of solitude, slashing 2 sword paths with a sharp swish. Then, she flew straight ahead, and with a bang, the figure exploded, scattering into pieces. Kaney stood there with a satisfied expression. Lois, who had been standing with folded arms observing everything, remarked, those 2 aren't bad at all. They don't look like they're just fooling around. Their strength is not inferior to a second-rate samurai that I'm not worried with them by my side anymore. The 2 of them then swiftly and efficiently moved from one opponent to another, seeming playful at first but proving quite useful in action. However, to expedite matters, Lois raised one hand and began to perform the temporal law spell, slowing down time. Suddenly, a sand clock appeared, and white chains flew out from it, binding the weapons of the soldiers. Seeing this, the mischievous duo exclaimed, oh, they're slowed down now. Lois has infused time crystals into their weapons. Khan added, oh, then let's seize this opportunity and finish them off. Both of them, filled with energy, continued to charge forward with white lightning surrounding them. The guards at this point couldn't even lift their weapons and had to stand still and endure the assault. The mischievous duo continued to unleash their sword techniques, and explosions echoed throughout the cave as the soldiers were blown to pieces, sounding like popcorn popping. After fighting for a while, they unexpectedly stopped in front of one last soldier. Khan said, is that the last one? Then, they joined forces and slashed through the soldier, causing him to vanish like smoke. Now, only armor, weapons, and a faint mist remained on the battlefield. The 2 of them looked disappointed and said, is that it? How boring. Then, Lois spoke from behind, well done, you 2. Why don't we try something more fun? The 2 of them looked at Lois in surprise. After a while, they all continued deeper into the cave. Lois, now sitting leisurely, enjoying her tea, remarked, this tea is delicious, isn't it? The 2 kids became more and more excited as they fought. Khan, with an amused expression, exclaimed, haha, this is so much fun. Kaney is also like that. Lois, you're really interesting here. Meanwhile, Lois sat on the chair, raising her hand to give directions, Khan, there's an arrow coming from the right, watch out. Kaney, be careful with the sword on the left, and there's a giant rolling rock. The two kids didn't hesitate and flew toward the threats with their swords, quickly shattering them into pieces. After a while of fighting, they stopped and said, Lois, we're done. There's nothing else moving. Fairy Finn, looking surprised, thought to himself, all those traps and soldiers. They only needed a few slashes to clear them out. Even though they're just kids, they're true dragons. Lois then slowly stood up and said, okay, it seems like we've cleared most of it here. As Fairy Finn tidied up the chairs and cups, he asked, but sir, where are we? Lois replied, here, this is the tomb of the heroic king. Fairy Finn, hearing this, gasped and exclaimed, what? The tomb of the heroic king? Is this where the heroic King Valencia rests? Lois replied, exactly, this is where he was laid to rest. It's like a cave with monsters and traps, all created to thwart intruders who seek to disturb the king. Once we overcome all the traps and obstacles and navigate through various passages, we'll reach the center of the tomb where the treasure awaits. Furthermore, it seems like this tomb is designed to be discovered early in the adventure to provide some initial equipment for the team, like a starting point for newcomers, and I'm pretty sure no one has been here before. In other words, all these treasures will be ours. Then he turned back to the two kids and shouted loudly, all right, we're almost there, twins. Are you ready? Let's go. The two kids stood there, a bit dazed, and just waved their hands in response. Then they proceeded together into the icy cave. After a while, they reached a towering cave entrance. The two kids then said, Lois, there's something big and ugly up ahead, exclaimed one of the kids. Emerging from the shadows were 10 giants with pairs of horns on each side and the same red-eyed glare. They could be the final bosses guarding the door. Lois looked at them, thinking to himself, just like in the original, so the treasure must be right behind that door. He was about to give orders to the kids, but before he could do so, the twins were already in combat mode, their eyes emitting a green light and energy radiating from their bodies. Witnessing this, Lois thought, they truly are an amazing pair, unafraid of enemies larger than themselves. After all, dragons are born to soar to great heights from the moment they learn to fly. And now these children were gritting their teeth, looking down at the foes beneath them. Lois, while casting spells with his hands, said, do you both see that? Do you understand my signal? The twins replied, haha, Lois is the best. Alright, let's finish this, then. Let's go, and both of them charged straight into the enemy ranks, their eyes showing no fear. With just a few strikes, they managed to take down one foe after another. Not only that, but the twins also argued and fought over the spoils. They belong to me. No, the rest is mine. Meanwhile, Lois stood outside, using his punches to slow down time, aiding them. In no time, they had dealt with all the enemies. The twins cheered, haha, that was fun. I'll sleep soundly tonight. Lois, victorious, stepped forward with a triumphant laugh. Now, let's check out our rewards. Then, they all stood before a large gate. Lois began casting a spell to open it, amid the excitement and anticipation of the twins. Open it, Lois, come on, Lois. Alright, I'll open it. As the light shone from within, the door slowly opened, revealing a scene that left them all in awe, piles of gold, silver, precious gems, pearls, and diamonds. Then, little Khan ran forward, his eyes sparkling with excitement. The treasure here is even greater than the treasure in my father's vault. It seems this little one really enjoys swimming. Last time he dove into a pile of snow, and now he's diving into a pile of gold. Fairy Finn and Kaney were also surprised, holding up objects. Look here, Lois, Lois, however, paid no attention to Finn's words, stepping forward and looking up. Before him lay the frozen body of the hero king, Valencia. Fairy Finn then said, so this is the hero king, Valencia. It's been so many years, yet he's still alive. Lois looked down at the block of ice, noticing some inscriptions on it, and said, these characters seem to be the ancient language of the winter continent. From the primordial beings of light and darkness, they emerged, created as embodiments of good and evil. When light and darkness were still in chaos, wars erupted in this chaos. A clear boundary appeared, separating good from evil. The earth was formed, and creatures in the world were born from both sources. The creatures of good and evil, those self-proclaimed noble beings who knew nothing of the world below, only dreamed of ruling over each other, and the conflict between good and evil caused suffering for all other creatures on earth. Finally, the beings on earth could no longer bear it, they took up their swords and stood against both good and evil, with dragons leading humans and hybrids following suit. After long struggles, the creatures on earth emerged victorious and spread across the continents according to the 4 seasons. Over time, we forgot about the concept of good and evil and also forgot about the dragons who had served as guardians. However, the hero King Valencia warned everyone that the dragons who had sacrificed for peace would return to the world once again. Along with the creatures of good and evil, as the last generation. Hearing about that war, we entrust you to pass on this story, Lois thought to herself, the war between good and evil. Does such a thing exist in the cosmos? Then Lois became angry, terrible. He's thrusting this foolish task upon us. But now, that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was this. The book about the lawless King Valencia. Valencia was a genius who did not adhere to the conventional ways and reached level 0 within the human body. This theoretical book contains all the achievements of his life. It is not an exaggeration to say that the main character at first, the swordsman Kendrick, became the strongest person in the human world thanks to this book. Then Lois raised the book high, compared to this book all other treasures seemed meaningless. Then she looked at the pile of gold and silver treasures, but it would be a pity to leave them behind, so let's take some of them. She walked towards the pile of gold, while happily picking up the gold, suddenly the ice block behind cracked open. Lois quickly turned around and noticed more cracks appearing around King Valencia encased in ice, and before long, boom, the ice block shattered, sending ice shards flying everywhere. Lois, with a trembling voice, said, "What on earth is happening?" Then a sword plunged into the ground and slowly rose up. It was the lawless King Valencia who had awakened. This part reminds me of Captain America. The American captain was also frozen after winning the battle and was thawed out, standing steadfast before Lois. Lois's face now showed a hint of fear as she thought to herself, this wasn't part of the original story. Suddenly, he pointed down at the pile of treasure, his voice hoarse as he said, "That pile isn't yours alone." The 2 little rascals outside didn't understand what was happening and asked, "What's going on, Lois, what's that?" Lois replied, "That's Valencia, a legendary king." Upon hearing this, the 2 of them exclaimed in astonishment, "What, him?" Lois answered, "Yes, he's a level 0 warrior, and now we can't possibly deal with him." Hearing this, Khan showed fear for the first time. A level 0 individual, a human. Lois turned back to the 2 and said, "So why don't we transform into dragons?" Before Lois could finish, King Valencia continued, "Those who are greedy only have death waiting for them." Then he drew his sword and raised both hands to the sky. A massive surge of lightning energy immediately appeared. Witnessing such a sight, all 3 of them felt as if they were rooted to the spot, unable to move even though they desperately wanted to run. Lois thought to himself, "Damn, what insane madness is this? Is this the effect of level 0? Then Lois looked at the 2 frightened little ones trembling in fear. "I've trained so hard just to die like this," he thought, before mustering all his magical strength, combining streams of orange and blue light into his fist. As King Valencia swung his sword with tremendous energy, Lois rushed in to block the blow with the energy-packed fist, shouting loudly, "I want to live." The energy surged straight into King Valencia, but just when Lois thought it was over, the attack morphed into a sword aimed directly at him. It was as if 1,000 bolts of lightning converged into one strike aimed at Lois. A deafening explosion echoed through the sky, blowing everything around into oblivion. Now, the scene was nothing but rubble with a long, endless crack created by the powerful techniques. Finn, the butterfly fairy, called out in desperation, "My Lord Lois." At this point in the chapter, please leave your comments below in the comments section, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel to motivate me to release the next chapter soon. Thank you all very much, goodbye.